what they're really seeking is validation.
Yes. Yeah.
And like, if you should spend a day inside my brain, I don't know that
Yeah.
my brain thinks the things that you think that a confident person thinks.
Yes.
So, what are you perceiving or what are you seeing that leads you to believe that I'm confident to make that projection or that judgment
Mm.
about me? In my teens, I used police cars as taxis. It's much easier to get home that way if you live in a city where there's a taxi queue, right?
I should have spoke up sooner. And don't get me wrong, it's a learning experience and it is what it, like, I have taken what I needed from that situation. We have repaired it. I have learned that lesson many times in many areas of my life, but I needed to learn it here. Yes.
Sucking it down.
Girl, yes.
I'm not going to say anything. You're driving me insane. This is
They
too.
know what to say in some weird way, but they're not being heard. How do you know that he is real? And I was like, I don't know if this person's real, if this is an AI generated photo. And that's going to start to trickle into so many different areas of our life because you're right, you can't trust what you see.
Welcome to Becoming Full of Yourself, the show where fulfillment is not a finish line, it's a way of being. I'm Ebony Allard, master coach, energy specialist, soul contract guide, here to help you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. In each episode, we explore what it means to lead from the inside out, embody your truth, and become so full of yourself that you overflow. Let's get into it. Amy, hello, my love.
Hello, gorgeous one.
I'm really happy to have this conversation. I'm excited to see where we go. For everyone listening or watching, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for welcoming me into your energy today. My name is Amy, and I'm a visibility coach. But most of my work is really focused with women and helping them understand the value of their true voice. Um, and building a business from a place of, I guess, real value and self-worth in order to create something that actually supports and sustains them and is built with the future in mind rather than this kind of, I don't know, cookie cutter business strategy that seems to be everywhere these days. And I guess my focus is really to help women unlock that part of them that they've been taught isn't good enough, that they've suppressed their whole life. And there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes with that, I think, in terms of emotional healing and confidence and inner strength.
I love
Yeah.
that because it helps me. I'm just squirreling notes down because there were things that we said we were going to talk about, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk about this, I don't want to talk about that, and I want to talk about the other. So, when we first connected, and I was talking about the concept of becoming full of yourself, what was your first internal response to the concept of becoming full of yourself?
I think for me, and initially I should say when I started coaching, it was life coaching and my focus was on confidence. And I think we teach what we needed to learn, right? And for me, and I think this is so important to say, it took me years to become full of myself. Years and years and years and years. And I appreciate that I'm 32. I know I've got a lot more life to live, but it took me a really long time. And I think I found it really hard just to live my life because I was so unfull of myself. And I think getting to this point, I think, in my life, in my business, and motherhood, where I can honestly just own my shit and be like, I'm an awesome human being. Doesn't mean that I'm better than any other human being, but I'm certainly an awesome human being in my own right. And that has been such a transformative journey for me as an individual. And I think becoming full of myself for me just means being able to stand in my own power.
Do you remember how or when you learnt that it wasn't okay to be full of you?
I remember the first time I had ever come across a coach and she asked me, like, when was the last time you felt worthy of like good things? And I literally crumbled because I'd never felt good enough, worthy, any kind of good feelings towards myself until probably the age of 25, 26. I didn't know it was a thing. I just thought everybody must feel like this.
Everyone must
What?
feel like what?
Constant, oppressive, negative thoughts, feelings, beliefs.
And I didn't ask consent to have this conversation because I didn't know we were going to go here. So now I'm going to ask, and you're allowed to go, I don't want to talk about that. And that's really always fine. Absolutely. But that implies to me that there was
Mm.
an environment at home where it was either volatile or where you didn't feel safe or where there was a kind of eggshell, not
Mm.
a no certainty, no reassurance, which is going to lead us beautifully to where we're going to go after this.
100%. For context, I was brought up in a council house. My parents, there was never any money around. We were very much kind of working class. My parents don't get me wrong, they were so loving and very hard workers, but there was always this overarching feeling of you've got to behave yourself, you've got to sit down, shut up. I was a straight A student. That was very much impressing me as being of very high importance. I didn't necessarily have any kind of environment at home, although my parents were not very emotionally available, shall we say. And I think this is the same in a lot of places, but certainly in Scotland it's the overarching feeling is very much like shut up and get on with it in every area of life. But my dad's the man that I consider my dad is actually my stepdad. And
Mm,
so it's really only as an adult I've probably understood that there was an impact from that biological father leaving. Although I never knew him,
mm.
I don't have any memories of him. I think that caused a huge abandonment wound.
And
And
I
a,
think that what you're describing is a not enough wound, right?
and
And
not enough,
that's
100%.
but the not enough wound, and this is why it's so important for people to understand it, right? You weren't necessarily told you were not enough. There was no implication that your behavior was not enough. What was inherent was there is not enough time, there is not enough money, there is not enough space, there is not enough resource, right? That's in the water, that's in the air, that's in the atmosphere.
100%.
And so it like just to be like when we have these conversations about home, when we have it about family or childhood, I am never attributing blame to anyone or putting responsibility on a parent or a family unit or on anything because we're talking about the culture, not the people. And we're
100%.
talking about your soul contract anyway, right? Like, as a soul, you chose them. I loved that was my dad's response to me complaining about him generally, or my mother, or about the circumstances, or any of it. It was like, well, you sat on a star, you looked down at everyone available, and you chose us. So, what's that about? And
I
this is
love
why
that.
I turned out this way.
100%. And I always, I think these conversations are so important because I think sometimes there's a lack of understanding that a lot of these wins can come from lots of different things. That we all experience things in life so differently.
Mm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be what you consider to be a big trauma in order to have deeply impacted the way you feel about yourself and also how you place yourself in this world and how you see yourself and your reality as a wider whole. It doesn't necessarily have to have been something really what other people would have considered really horrific. There can be this implied feeling, this energy.
And it's also why stimulus is not stimulus cause and effect, and stimulus have different outcome in different people, right? And
Yes.
so I've been talking about this a lot today, and in the last podcast I just recorded, I shared a story of in transactional analysis, Eric Byrne shares a story of two twin boys who were born to a single mother, and they are a lot. And she says all the time as they're bouncing off the walls, you're going to end up in a loony asylum. And they do, both of them, and one of them is as a patient and one of them is as a doctor. And it's same stimulus, different outcome, and that's why
Yes.
it's so important, right? Because we always have a choice to how we respond. And again, going deeper into the dark doesn't make us a failure, or it's just part of the journey, right? And the
Yes.
further the more honest we can be. Like, we all have trauma. The world is a traumatic place, and we are
100%.
individual and collective. And so the more we are able to be honest and
Yes.
take a real, like, stand and look at what is going on without crumbling, the more we're able to sit in the the reasons that they felt like they were not enough, the lineage of that, the ancestry of that, the
Yes.
immediacy of that, every different way of it. You can't ever decide what enough is until you have really acknowledge that there's not enough in the first place.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think it's the, I think as well, in order to understand that I was enough,
Mm.
I had to also understand that everyone else was also enough. And I had to let go of, again, this kind of energy and what's been taught by me by society, right? How to judge other people, how to create perceptions of other people, and how to create snap judgments based on vanity. And until I was able to do that for other people too, I couldn't truly honor myself in that. Because the way that you place value on a human life doesn't just mean you, it means other people. And I think once you can really step back and understand that we're all inherently human beings, we're all experiencing this in ways that you will never understand. And actually that's okay. It's actually none of your business unless someone chooses to share that with you. Their worth is not any less or any more than yours. Their journey's just different. And,
I agree 100%. And
you
I'm now
know,
looking at where I want to take you next. So, I wanted to talk about you said that you are a visibility coach now, one of the things, and that started as confidence.
hmm
And I'm looking at my notes and being like, so there's a huge thing
yeah,
about visibility in the world,
yeah,
particularly in the like business space, online business space, personal brand, place,
yes,
all of this kind of thing, right? Where there's a lot of conflation and distortion
yes,
around being your brand, around perception, around projection, around like all of these things, right? What it even means to be visible. And for me, and the giggle was the judgment that I have
yes,
most of the time when people are talking about, I want to be more visible, you just need to get more visible. If I got more visible, right? What they're really seeking is validation.
yes, yeah,
And we had had a previous conversation, which is why I invited you on, a little bit about that, but also a little bit about confidence. People say, I just want more confidence. And they come to me all the time, oh my gosh, you're so confident. And it's interesting because I don't think I'm not very visible in like I'm not, right? And I'm like, am I confident? I don't know that I like if you should spend a day inside my brain. I don't know that
yeah,
my brain thinks the things that you think that a confident person thinks.
yes.
So what are you perceiving or what are you seeing that leads you to believe that I'm confident to make that projection or that judgment
Mm.
about me? And so I'd got down this kind of idea of like, okay, well, when we're getting really visible, or the energy I see behind people who are like, let's get really visible, let's get on TV, let's get famous, let's get, and I'm like, for what? Right? What are you going to do with all that attention?
You've hit the nail on the head. You've hit the nail on the head.
And so for me, I wrote down like, I'm much more interested in invisible change. I am much more interested. And then I'm like, is it invisible? And this is for those who speak human design or gene keys, like this is my 26, right? But then I'm like, it's not invisible change. It is, but it's genuine change. Like I want genuine change. Like, and sometimes you can't see genuine change. For example, if I go to a yoga class or a Pilates class, I cannot see whether someone has is holding their pelvic floor or not. I can't tell whether they've engaged a banda or not. I can't tell if they're doing the work or not. But we can all fling our arms in the right positions, right? And so I'm really curious what you've noticed or become aware of as a confidence coach and as a visibility coach.
See, like these topics come up and I can literally feel the hairs on my skin stand up because these are the conversations that are so important though. And you know that invisible change that you're talking about, for me personally, that's the integrity piece. That's the stuff that you're doing when no one's watching. And I'm not talking about your personal time, right? And doing whatever you do to enjoy yourself, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how you carry yourself and that stuff inside of you that nobody sees, which is what makes up actual, real, true confidence. Confidence is the ability to see past a set of circumstances. It's self-trust. No matter what comes my way, I can deal with that challenge. It's self-belief. I'm no better and I'm no worse than anyone else, and I'm going to give it my best try. And I think people mistake confidence for this, again, this kind of PR package of someone smiling and looking radiant and glowing and being able to perform on a stage or to sing a song in front of a huge audience. None of that matters unless you want to be a performer on stage or a singer singing to an audience. And this is the biggest mistake I see
Mm.
with visibility. I want to go viral. I want to go viral. I'm going to be at this retreat that's really prestigious and be seen to be there for the clout of it. And that's the performative visibility that has no real substance underneath it. And no matter where you are in your business journey, you have to understand, why am I being visible? What is the end goal of this? And I think so many women get caught in the trap of, oh, I need more sales. I just need more money in my bank. I just need more sales. And they forget that in order to do that, they have to create the value in the first place, something that is real. And like you say, it's not always something that can be, it's not always a product, for example. I started in network marketing, right? So I sold physical products in the beginning, and that was a tangible exchange. But coaching is so different to that. And if you're a service-based business, you're not selling a physical product, you're selling a feeling, an energy, a transformation, a spiritual shift, all these things that cannot necessarily be whittled down to something that you physically hand to someone else. And yet we're so caught up in the tangible. Give me a strategy. Tell me how many reels to post today. Tell me what to say. Give me the words. How can someone else give you the words for something that you're an expert at?
And again, we're back at this thing, and I say again because it feels like it's been a day of it for me, of we're still looking at it from outside in rather than inside out. And so
Yes.
that's the, I want to have confidence, which is the outcome. And I'm like, no, what do you want to be? If you want to be confident, then what do you do? What do you do
Yes.
then produces what you have. So it has to be do, have. And yet we're still coming at this from have. Tell me what I need to do. Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
many years ago, I wrote a blog called The Anatomy of Self-Confidence, and it was partly my own experience, but also inspired by a concept Matthew Hussey shared
Oh,
years ago, where he talked about these three different parts of confidence. And I think what you've just really talked to is integral confidence, which is that
yes.
real, like, internal, I've got
Yeah.
me, and that unconditional, even if I fall or fail, it doesn't impact me, right? And then we've got like the identity confidence of
Yes.
who I am, right? And I think when people miss that, because most people start with the who I am piece, and there's a difference between who I am and who I be, and what is that difference? Well, it's the
Yeah.
way that energy is projected out, or it's
Yes.
you're casting it, right? So I'm a thousand different me's. I have lots of multiple identities, not in a schizophrenic kind of way, but I have different aspects of
Yeah.
myself that as we all do, right? The version of me that goes and hangs out with my family is not the version of me that goes live on
100%.
Instagram. It's not the version of, and the girl that goes in live on Instagram is not the girl who goes to the bedroom most of the time, right? These are different aspects of me. And that then leads to a place of embodied confidence that, well, I can just choose and discern which parts of myself I'm bringing out from this integral, which is why I need to be full of myself so that there can be all these different aspects within that I bring out appropriately, right?
Yes. I think it's so interesting because do you know how there's like this concept of the phone voice? You know
Mm-hmm.
how some people pick up the phone and suddenly there's other complete other human.
Yes, and I was chatting before you. I don't think it was so bad this time, but earlier today I was recording another podcast, and we were nattering away. We haven't seen each other for ages, and then I pressed record, and I could feel myself do my "And we're live with Ebony Allard." I was like, and I didn't say to her, "I'm really sorry. I just did my hostess with the mostess voice," and I could see in her face the visceral change from the just chatting that we'd had. And when I was an assistant I used to temp a lot. I would see it all the time where you'd be like just chatting to the sandwich boy, and then the phone would ring, and you'd be like, and it's such a thing.
Yes. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily, right? I use that point to demonstrate the fact that we all have different faces. I think the key for authenticity and to make sure that that face does not differ too much from what your true values are is to make sure that you understand that you have different faces and that sometimes you are going to have to speak slightly differently or put on a more professional tone for the audience that you find yourself in front of. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having to have a certain step back and say, okay, I need to use this face at the moment. I think as long as you understand that and realize that,
I'm going to give a parenting example for this because I think I totally hear where you're coming from, right? Of it, because we're talking about performance and being performative, and then you're saying, but this isn't a performance, right? And so I'm like, when you're parenting, the voice, the tone, the energy, the stance that you use if your child is about to run into a road is not a show. It's a different part of yourself that says,
yes,
stop. And it means it. And that's entirely different from if you used that voice when you're trying to put them to sleep, no one's going to sleep.
no, it is exactly that. It's exactly that. It's the same parts of you, it's the same threads. It's just a slightly different element of you. And that's okay. And that doesn't mean you're being fake. It just means you're pulling on different strengths and skills within you appropriate to the situation. Same as when you're parenting, same as when you're on a podcast versus talking to your best friend with a glass of wine.
And so in that breakdown that Matthew Hussey gave years ago, he talked about competence as part of
So the
confidence.
loop, yeah.
And when you and I talked before, I said, what do you think people really want when they say they want confidence? And for me, the answer is surety. What is it for you when people come to you and they say, I want to be confident? What do they really want?
I think they want to feel like they can do things that they have somehow along their journey told themselves they can't. I think when people search for confidence, they don't necessarily want to walk into a room and be able to burst into song. I think they want to be able to do the things they've promised themselves that they can do, but have somehow made that unattainable. And I do think that's a lot to do with the world as it is right now. I think there's a lot. I don't like to blame social media for things, but in the way that most people use social media, it almost creates this like sub group of humans who are seen to be better than everyone else because you've got a large amount of followers. And I think that somehow then what they're doing seems so above whoever's looking for that confidence. And I think what they want is to bridge that gap and be able to say, I can do that too.
And what I see is a massive, and I talk about this all the time, a massive commitment issue.
Yes.
And what actually
Yes.
people want is mastery. But they don't just want competence, they want mastery without putting in the hours, without putting in the work.
Yes.
And the thing is, I'm not going to go into specifics, and there is a very specific person I'm thinking of, but there's people who can go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. And when they do that, they think, and they are confident, right? But they're not competent. In fact, they have no mastery because when you develop the ability to do something over time with experience and you make mistakes and you get it wrong and you own those mistakes, there are stages of learning and development. The first one is unconscious incompetence.
Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about here. It's not anyone, they're not doing anything wrong. They just don't know what they don't know.
Yes.
And you can't become confident, you can't become masterful at something without having done it a lot, without repetition, without making mistakes, without
Mistakes.
owning those
Mhm.
mistakes, without apologizing. And what people want is they want control without ownership.
Yes.
And they are really different things. And one of the concepts I've been talking about quite a lot at the moment is if you own your house, you treat it differently than if you are renting your house most of the time, right? I don't. I am and always had an ownership mentality. But most people, when they rent their house, they want to control the problems. When you own your house, you want to invest in
Hmm.
not just band-aiding those problems, but making it last for a long time. So you'll go a
Yes.
little bit further, you'll dig a little bit deeper, rather than just painting over it.
Yeah.
You will go, okay, what is the actual issue and what needs to change here? And most of the time, people want to be in control of an audience or in control of who buys from them or in control of how they're perceived
Yes.
rather than taking ownership of it, which goes deeper, which is wider, which involves more humility. It's often more expensive.
Oh, yes. I know. No, you're right. I think again it comes back to this kind of I think I think we've seen it. I've certainly seen it post COVID, where like you say, this whole mentality of you can wake up one morning and decide to start a business and make £1,000 in a day from selling on a course or a whatever has been there's been lots come and go in that time, but I think it's created this sort of feeling of, well, I can just wake up one day, sell this thing, and I'm going to make all this money. And there's a word that I use an awful lot is integrity. And there seems to be a real lack of integrity, but I don't think that's unique to online business. I think it's something that perhaps I see an awful lot in lots of spaces and places with lots of people. And again, I think it comes down to confidence. And I think it's so much easier to put up this facade of success than it is to actually be in the fire of building real, sustainable, tangible success that actually lasts the test of time because it's so much scarier and uncertain. And like you say, back to this whole thing of certainty, if I put up this facade, there is a certainty there. There is a safety there, even if it's only perceived.
And I think it really depends. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with any stage of this, right?
Oh,
Like
100%.
one of the issues I see in life is at the moment is that people we have we don't want our kids to get hurt. We don't want anyone
Mm,
to get hurt. And so we don't let them do things that might hurt them, which means that they don't have that opportunity
mm.
to fail.
Risk adverse.
And for me, it's like I got all I mean, I in my teens, I used police cars as taxis. Though it's much easier to get home that way if you live in a city where there's a taxi queue, right? It's just much easier. Police will always take you home. I don't know if this is true anymore, and I don't necessarily advocate it for it. I feel like I need to do some kind of right disclaimer. However, I got all of that out of my system very, very young, and I remember meeting someone when I was like, I think at uni, like at 21, and she just started smoking, and I was like, what the fuck? Why would you do this at 21? You were like, I started at 40, and she was like, but you're so cool. I'm like, no, there's nothing cool about this. But I was
Yeah,
11, I didn't know any better, right? And also I've
yeah.
done it now, and I've got it out of my system, and like I don't need to do it anymore. And I
Mm.
think the younger we let our appropriately and all of the things, and that's going to be a different age for each child, the younger we support people in making mistakes, in not making it, not shaming them for that mistake and not making it about who they are, but
Yes.
it's like, cool, you had a go, it didn't work, try again, right?
This
What are
is
you going to do differently next time, right? Rather than like, well, you fucked that up. It's like not making it personal, not making it about who their identity, about who they are. Instead, being like, you are someone who has a go at stuff. You're someone who can get back up again. Does that make sense?
100%. This is the journey I was on very much. And I mean, I protect my peace. There's very little that riles me up emotionally, but I actually shouted at my mum 2 weeks ago. I've never done that, by the way, let me say. Um, because every time I spoke to her, she had something negative to say about me. You're disorganized. Oh, we all know what you're like. Oh, you've forgotten that. Oh, you've done this. And I lost my shit. But that was 32 years in the making because when I was younger, it was made about you. It was a part of your personality. You're late all the time. You're this all the time. You're disorganized all the time. Constant, constant, all the time. And there's a wider conversation there, but a lot of that it gets intertwined with your identity. And it's taken me a very long time to unlearn that. And I'm very conscious of that with my own children. And I think we do have better language now. My mom, and again, this is not towards my mom. I love my mom. I love her dearly. But she didn't have the language. She didn't have the concepts. She didn't have the skills that we have access to now in terms of how we speak to our children differently to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I also understand that I will say things that stick with my children that maybe they have to heal from, and
And
maybe
it's
they
and it's
will.
also it's a culture, right?
It
Getting people
is,
to like
yeah.
suck their teeth. You can't say that to your mum. That's the culture I want to also shed because our children are our teachers, not the
No,
other.
yes.
And I was smiling when you said that because I think I was um, about the age that you are now when I also had gone through quite a big thing with myself, and I was I had stopped smoking, and I was a week into stopping smoking, and I had resolve on it this time. I had decided it was
Doing
happening.
it.
Yeah, it was done, and I had a whole thing with my mum, and a whole thing where I won't go into the details of it, but we ended up in a situation where I said something, she replied with something negative. I said something, she replied with something negative. And I ended up snapping and what like it built and built and built. And it was like the smoking had been a tactic or strategy for sucking it down,
Yes,
sucking it down.
girl. Yes.
Not going to say anything. Not going to. You're driving me insane. This is too much. I can't handle anymore. I don't really know how to respond to this. I can feel the anger and inflammation rising in me. I need to breathe. Oh, for years, right? I'd been
Yep.
and
Suppress it.
dropping it into my belly, and it's still a lot of that years and years and years of holding everyone else's shit and not giving it back to Gaia, composting it in my belly, right? Came out in one nobody and it was true. I didn't I said nobody talks to me like that anymore, and I didn't mean it like how very dare you talk to me like that. I did, but I really meant nobody else
Yes.
changed my life so much that nobody else talks to me like this anymore, and it's such a contrast that between me removing the crutch and the barrier between this and the shock of she said we're not all as perfect as you, and what she got back was a very imperfect
Yes.
raw of probably not the 25 minutes I'd been there, probably the 30 odd years
Yes.
and the week of like all the other stuff collecting as it wanted to come out, right? And we got through it. And there's one of the other things that I have learned that I wished there'd been more focused on in my household, and I really focus on now, is rupture and repair. There's a
Yes.
lot of rupture in my household. There wasn't a lot of repair.
No.
And the ability, it's not about avoiding rupture.
No.
It's about knowing how to make reparations and also allowing our kids or each other in our relationships to know that repair will happen. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be immediate. You don't have to like hang on for it. You don't have to grasp for it. Everyone can move at their own time. We do this in our own ways. But if you grow up knowing that there is a guarantee of repair,
It's
that changes something.
it changes everything, genuinely. And I was smiling as you said that because this has been so much of my work is focused on helping women use their voice. You're the same woman you are in business as you are in your relationship, as you are as a mother. You are the center. And so when you're suppressing your voice in one area of your life, you're suppressing it in others. And interestingly, I've always struggled to use my voice with my mum. And my rupture at her came because nobody talks to me like that anymore. I am a completely different person. I move in a very different way. And that itself has caused friction between us. Not in a negative way. She wants the best for me. She loves me, of course. But I'm just not the same person. I'm a very different person. I move very differently through life. And of course that causes friction. But what have I learned from that situation? I should have spoke up sooner. And don't get me wrong, it's a learning experience and it is what it like I have taken what I needed from that situation. We have repaired it. I have learned that lesson many times in many areas of my life, but I needed to learn it here.
And now I'm giggling at you because it's the same thing, right? Like I've recently, very recently, in fact, learned that this dynamic with her of people thinking I'm perfect or that it's easy for me is because I don't tell them when it's not. Now that
Yeah.
sounds ridiculous. And I'm
No,
like,
it's
I do. Now, if you ask me, I always answer. So the people in my inner circle, the people who come and hang out in the intimate spaces, the people who are interested enough to ask me, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? Blah, blah, blah. Right. Don't just make perceptions and judgments, but actually inquire, get the
Yes.
truth. And I am an open book. You'll
Yeah.
get everything out of me. But if you just look and you don't listen, you might see grace because I am. I am
Hmm.
grace, but you will mistake my grace for ease and perfection.
Yes.
And this is why I am not what I just wrote down, seen and not heard. And you've really helped me today understand why I dislike visibility for women,
Yeah.
because it um, perpetrates this seen and not heard thing.
Yes.
Because women should be seen and not heard. And
Yes.
no, it is not about being visible, it's about being heard. And
Hmm.
I don't need you to know my face or see me in a bikini looking perfect on a beach to hear what I'm sharing. And some of the ways that I share are not even with words, they're with energy, which you still need to be listening to.
Yes. And open to.
Like attuned.
It is attuned, and it's so interesting because most of the women that I coach, that's where they struggle. They know what to say in some weird way, but they're not being heard because what they're saying isn't real. They're saying something that someone else has told them is the right thing to say. And by that, they are still standing in that porcelain statue of themselves, being seen, but not being heard, not being felt, not being understood, not being valued. Because it comes down to how other people value you as well. Again, coming back to that perception piece. And I think that's because there's a lot of people still very much focused on that how do things look element of life. How do things look on the outside? Not actually how do I feel about who I
Well,
am and what I have tangible, real in my life.
and for me, this is where this is the good of the dark side of AI, because already and more and more and more so, you will not be able to trust your eyes. You will
No,
be able
exactly.
to trust what you see. And
Mm,
so, if you do not get better at attuning to what is not being said or the energy underneath, feeling the chi, feeling the vitality in another person or in an offer or in a, you are going to get into a lot of trouble.
I know. Interestingly, this is so personal. I've never shared this before, but um, I left my marriage. I have shared that. I left my marriage a couple of years ago. Best thing I ever did, by the way. And recently, my sister and a good friend of mine have been like, right, come on, Amy, try dating apps. Let's try dating apps. So I've tried them before. It's really not my thing, if I'm completely honest. But I thought, come on, Amy, like you're putting this really positive energy out into the universe. Let's just see what happens. And so I opened it up, and there was a profile of someone who had they like whatever, and I'd sent screenshotted it and sent it to my friend, and she went, "How do you know that he is real?" And I was like, I don't know if this person's real, if this is an AI generated photo. And that's going to start to trickle into so many different areas of our life because you're right, you can't trust what you see on a screen the way that you can trust feeling someone's heart and soul connect with yours and what they activate within you is a very different thing.
It's why when I'm reading a sales page, when I'm interacting with someone's reels with their content, I'm so many, and particularly if you're an emotional, if you have a wave of any sort, if you're open in certain areas, we have to be aware of what's going to hook us, what's going to capture us, right? Because you can get so sucked into the high and the excitement and the energy of something, but then you've got to be really clear with yourself. Is excitement or high energy what I want? And if it is, this is where I'm coming back to that kind of youthful, don't know what I don't know thing, right? If the energy is let's go fight, try some shit, go with that person because they've got the energy, they've got that's the medicine
Yeah.
you need. Stability and equanimity, which is not surety.
Hmm.
Go with someone who you can feel that from.
Yes. Do you not think it comes back to confidence in terms of being able to trust yourself and your intuition?
Oh yeah, 90% of people haven't got a fucking clue what they want. And that's the hardest part. They don't know what they want, so they'll take the easiest thing, right? Oh,
Yes.
he seems really confident. And that's why they buy marketing, not products, right? Because they are being influenced by the
Yes.
surest person rather than
Yes.
what is actually a match for what you need. And in sales language, we get taught sell to people, sell to what they want, give them what they need. And I have all my life gone, no. And you know what that means? That's meant less sales. But I
Yeah.
will not sell you. I will not, that's mis-selling you. If I'm selling you what, there's an element, there's a mastery to it, right? But if I'm selling you what you want, but giving you what you need, you're going to hate me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I used to do that, but I'm not down for that projection anymore. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just not available for it. And
Yeah.
so I'm not going to sell you what you want and give you what you need. I'm going to tell you this is what I've got on offer. Buy it if you want it, don't if you don't, right? Be a grown up,
Yes.
make the decisions for yourself. And part of being a grown up is moving from I just want whatever you give me.
Yes.
Maiden
And
energy, right? To move into
yes.
mother or like muse energy of this is who I am, this is what I'm not got, this is the experience I want to have. Takes up, we're back to ownership of right. It's okay to not
Yes.
know what you want, but then what you want is to try some stuff.
Yes. Again, coming back to this whole obsession with surety, get rid of surety and instead replace it with curiosity. Everything good in your life comes from getting curious about things. In the early days, especially when I kind of first transitioned into coaching as opposed to like a product-based business, I downloaded so many freebies. I listened to so many podcasts. I spoke to people in business, and I see people because men, women in different age groups, different backgrounds, different businesses. Tell me about your experience. How did you do that? How do you do this? What does this look like? What does this feel like? And I got curious. I got really, really curious about how other people were doing things.
Which
And
is
in that
different from
journey,
grasping at them and going, well, that looks like it works. That looks like it works. That looks like it works,
yeah,
right? You didn't go, all of these different people are going to have the answer because I need it now. You
no.
tried on a load of stuff. You sampled it.
Yes. And I talk about this even in terms of visibility. Take it wide for a second. You're holding on so tightly to what you think you should be doing in this narrow focused view, and your perception is cut off from so much in the wider perspective of things. Get a bit curious. Everyone's so obsessed with their time and, oh, like I can only do this and my time is so precious. Your time is precious. Spend it getting curious. It's the best investment you'll ever make in yourself.
And that whole thing of like, I can't approach that person because they're out of your league and we're back in 1980s and it's a song. Like, what just happened? And so the worst that's going to happen is they don't reply
I know. But again, it's really
or
not
say no. And it's like, it's not the end of
it's
the
not the end of the
world.
world. It's not the end of the world. And I honestly I get asked all the time, like, especially with the podcast coming out and now the Summer Summit, and everyone's like, how did you get them? How did you get them to go? I asked them. Or they actually, technically, they asked me because I've sat in this space for so long of just being my own center of energy and gravity and being like, if you want it, great. If you don't want it, great. And that does
Yeah.
create this
And
beautiful,
and we get to work out, and we're going to have to wrap up because we could talk forever, and
I
I
know.
love this conversation. However, this thing of it's I'm going to be in control of it. It's going to look a certain way, or right. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely thought the goal was to have your shit together, and like for 11 years,
Yeah.
I had my shit together. Wasn't happy, but or fulfilled or satisfied, but had my shit together, right? And in the last couple of months, or in the last yeah, in the last couple of months, I have interviewed so many people. I've been on so many summits. I've been asked to be on so many things. I've delivered workshops. I've bounced around multiple countries. I can't tell you what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing in 15 minutes. I do not have my shit together. My forms,
Yes.
this doesn't like I used to be so organized. And if you booked a thing, it linked beautifully to another thing, which linked to another thing. And I'm so proud of it. And at the moment, it's all fucking messy, and we were talking about this
Yes.
beforehand, right? My entire life, because I'm changing everything, and my entire life is on the floor, ready to go somewhere else, and I need to go through it and be like, keep or delete, right? And I don't want to put it away because that takes effort, and so I'm sort of stepping over bits of my life, and I've got a little bit used to it, right? And like, oh, a soul course in my house, yay! Rather than stubbing my toe on it or being like, and sometimes I'm stubbing my toe in it, but then I'm going with that and turning it into the stub your toe dance. And there's a whole way of just being in life that means it doesn't matter what the circumstances are.
Listen, this is what I call the energy, because you talked about being confident to be seen
Yes.
as confident. That's the energy of confidence, I think. For me personally, that's how I feel about it. Is that confidence is being able to have all these things in front of you and dance through them, knowing that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You're just a human being in this earthly experience, doing it for the first time, bumping into things. Sometimes you don't have your eyes open when you should. Sometimes you're not listening and you're not ready to hear, right? Be
And I
curious.
say that to my clients all the time. I've told you this about 18 times and you're not listening. And they're like, sorry. And I'm like, hey, I didn't say that to shame you. Just to
It's
acknowledge it.
just
I actually want my intention behind saying that is if I've said this multiple times and you haven't heard me, what else is going on in your life that you're not
yes,
listening to? And the
yes.
likelihood is that all the things that you want and desire are right in front of your face, but you are so clear on them looking or sounding a certain way or coming from that direction that you're missing this. Have you ever seen that video where they tell you to look at a thing and then a load of other stuff happens in the background and then at the end they're like, did you see the man in a bear suit? And you're like, there was no man in a bear suit. And then they play it back and there is. You seen that?
Same thing. Same thing as when, if some, like you hold up cards and there's a shape and people see different things in them. This is your lens. And if your lens, your belief system and your thoughts and your feelings and you're emotionally overloaded, every piece of information you're taking in is being so distorted that you're seeing a completely different picture.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to step back a little bit, clear the lenses in order to have perspective on the thing, the great thing that's really just in front of us. If we take a moment and we center ourselves and get rid of all the noise.
Love that. I'm not going to bounce into another thing, even though I could
I
bounce
know.
and response for ages. If people want to come and continue listening, sharing, engaging in your world, bearing in mind that I'm not entirely sure when this is coming out, where is the best place to come and find you? And I will put everything you've given me in the show notes as well.
Yeah, the best place to get me always is on Instagram, and it's just Amelie Coaching. And please do feel free to just drop into my DMs. Just drop into the DMs. I will not ignore you, I promise. And generally speaking, that's the best place to get me. But I think I've given you the podcast and things in case people want to have a little dive into that.
Yes, I'm going to put all of those things, and I'm also going to put
Yes,
more. You and I are very similar in that way. People are always like, I can't just message you. I'm like,
do it. I
don't,
love
don't
it.
then, fine, but you're missing out. The good stuff happens in the DMs, people.
Yes.
And actually in my stories, right? I don't post on my grid all the time anymore. I am on my stories every day. And I genuinely wish people would engage with the questions I ask or the ask me anything or the like polls I put up because for me that's the fun stuff. That's how
That is the
to
fun
like
stuff.
have a conversation.
Again, I know we're trying not to add to this conversation, but I do think a lot of that comes down to people's trust of themselves. They're so scared that if they message you or answer something in your DMs that you're going to pounce on and send them a buy my thing. I think that's just not going to happen. Come and have a genuine conversation. Trust yourself enough to be able to have conversations with people without spending your money. That comes down to confidence and self-trust again. You can have a genuine conversation. In fact, all good things are held on the other side of fantastic DM conversations, in my opinion.
We need to carry on this conversation another time, so we will. I don't know when and I don't know how, but I know that we will because that piece of like I used to buy friendship, I used to buy conversations, and this whole idea of you're buying the energy in the room. Yes, and I don't
Mm,
like I can choose to buy energy in a room. I can choose to buy any on a stage, on a TV channel, on a whatever, and that is an option, and there is space for it. And what I have experienced, particularly in the last year, since life has got a little chaotic for me and I've let it,
hmm
and instead of then stepping into dominance, right, my default road of, well, everything's chaos, so I'll clear it up. That's a childhood pattern that I learned very young, right?
Yep.
Instead of doing that, I've reached out to those around me and said, does anyone want to help or support me?
Yeah.
Not can you from a bottom of your empty cup, but is anyone around and want to support me?
Yeah.
And the amount of support and experience and mastery and reciprocity
Yes.
has filled me with confidence that I am seen, heard, loved, and understood, and that people are desperate actually to bring it back to me and show me how much my commitment and devotion and presence has meant to them over the years. But I didn't know it was there because I wasn't creating space for it.
And I think again, it comes back to that whole let your eyes be open for a bit. Sometimes we just need to be ready to hear something that's been there without us knowing for a very long time. And it can be the most beautiful gift. It doesn't have to, like you say, be the way you think it should look. Sometimes the best gifts are things that we had actually no idea that they existed.
And I kind of want to end on this, but I'll let you have the last bit. But the idea that confidence is knowing everything.
Mm.
And yet I was the most confident when I was a little girl who knew nothing, who was in innocence, right?
Again, coming back to that whole thing of curiosity, confidence is truly knowing that you'll never know it all and being okay with that, being totally comfortable in the chaos, in the not knowing, in the uncertainty, because that is the only certainty in life.
Yeah.
That you're never going to know it all. And actually, half the fun is in finding out.
And we knew way more when we were tiny, we knew than we do now anyway, right? That thing of like, if you ask a 5, 6-year-old to do something that they can't do, they go, no, I can't do that. Right? Or like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let me have a go, right? But they're just really clear with their yeses
Yeah.
and nos. It hasn't got
Yeah.
smushed into, should I be able to? Would
Yes.
you like me more if I did? It's none of that's happened quite yet. Maybe it has by 6 now, but that's unfortunate. And yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, my daughter's definitely at that stage. My younger daughter, everything is just attacked with this curiosity and this. And I look at her in awe and I'm like, that's how I'm going to show up today. That's how I'm going to show up for, my clients. That's going to have to show up, for the summit. I'm just going to be in the moment and go, this is awesome, and just enjoy it.
Yes. Well, let's end on that. If you have listened, watched, enjoyed this conversation, let us know in the comments how you are going to show up today as a basis, or, as a consequence of this conversation, and let us know what landed, any takeaways you have. We are enriched by your feedback and your engagement, so thank you. And I will see you next time. Amy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Becoming Full of Yourself. If you found a resonance here, subscribe, share it with someone who's ready to reclaim their fullness, and leave a review to help others find this work. For more resources, rituals, real talk on living a fully fulfilled life, head to ebonyallard.com. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be full of yourself.